Welcome to the show. Today's guest, you are going to love her. I hope that you are just going to love her as much as I do. Emily Freeman, first of all, one of my girls, her and I, we were actually in a really incredible high level networking group together for 2024 with Chris and Lori Harder. And her and I just totally hit it off. And so it was so fun to just be around other incredible entrepreneurs, big dreamers, big thinkers in this room filled with big people. But Emily was one of those girls, one of those women that I was like, okay, she's my people for sure. And so I'm really excited to have her on the show and to get to share her with all of my people so that you'll just know and love her as much as I do. But Emily, she's a dating coach, she's a love coach. She empowers ambitious men and women to go from confused to confident in their love lives. And she's taken the dating coach scene by storm, helping people stop focusing on surface level tactics that don't work and instead attract their dream partner authentically. So, welcome, Emily. I'm so excited for our conversation today.
I'm so excited to be here. I feel like we've been talking about this for quite some time, and I'm so happy it's finally happening. It's long overdue.
It absolutely is. I'm excited. So why don't we go into a little bit of what you do? And I love the topic of what it is that you do regarding dating because I actually feel like you guys go find her on Instagram, go follow her, you're gonna love her, but her content actually even is really, really relevant towards creating incredible friendships and connections and
Mm.
deeper surface conversations, which is obviously what we are all about here with Business and Bubbly. And so I want you first to share like what does it look like and like a little bit of your background. And I know your story and you and Mike and all this amazing stuff, which her husband's amazing too. So dive on in and we're gonna have a really good conversation. So for those of you listening, welcome. We're just gonna have a girl chat with my girl.
Awesome girl chat. I'm excited. Um, well, first off, thank you. It's such a beautiful introduction. And like I said, I'm just so honored to be here. So, where to start with my story? My story is really a lifelong story because even from, I mean, as young as I can remember, before preschool, but definitely in preschool, I was already obsessed with romantic love. I had a boyfriend in preschool. His name was Eric. Shout out Eric, preschool boyfriend. Um, and, it was one of those things I was just so naturally drawn to. Meanwhile, I also grew up in a household that was very holistic and spiritual. My dad is an MD, but he's an acupuncturist. And my mom was also deeply invested in spirituality and understanding ourselves. So I was brought to my first meditation class when I was 3 years old. And everyone went around the circle and answered the question, life is. And I sat there and I just went, life is. And everyone was like, that is perfect. That's exactly right. And, it's just, I'm sure in that moment, I just didn't know what to say, but it was such a beautiful representation of how we can get so much in our heads around life. And for me, one of the places I got the most stuck in my head was in my romantic relationships because I was so drawn to them. Libra also in the house here. But I found myself having a lot of difficulties. And of what I see now is I really was losing myself again and again in the pursuit of romantic love. And so ultimately, I found myself in my mid late 20s after two long-term back-to-back relationships ended with men who, I thought I was going to get engaged to and married. I was at that age where I was like ready for it. I was so excited. This is the dream. And both of them just absolutely imploded and I left me at an all-time low in my self-esteem where I wondered if there was something wrong with me, if I was ever going to find love. And so I went back to my roots and I went back to mindfulness because meanwhile, I'd also gone through some knee injuries. I was very into fitness. I had been a fitness blogger and trainer and ran medical fitness facilities at the time. And And I'd gone through these injuries. And so I went back to meditation and mindfulness and found myself sitting on my pillow, meditating and just focusing on my breath. And from there, I got, swept up into the world of personal development and started working in thought work and got myself to a place where I felt confident again. And I remember hearing the phrase, just because you think it doesn't make it true. And that was just a huge, for so many of us, like high performers and people who we like when we consider ourselves intelligent people, it's so easy to buy into your own beliefs, right? You're like, oh, well, yeah, it's true. And I can like rationalize why it's true. So to feel that liberation of, oh my gosh, it's not necessarily true was huge. So long story short, found myself back out in the dating world. Felt like I had, men at my fingertips and just knew, okay, this is going to be so easy. I know what I want. I'm ready for my husband. Here I come. And the universe laughed in my face again and was like, that's not quite how it's going to go. You're going to have to actually understand where you are really still abandoning yourself, where you aren't being true to you in order for the pursuit of finally having that romantic love. So that turned into a whole other chapter of my journey where I ended up diving into, what makes you attractive and looking at all of more of like the tactic type things. And of course, that didn't really work either. And I was still going on 1 or 2 dates and I'm falling off, or, 1 month and then it's gone, or 2 months and it's not the right person. And so eventually I recognized after doing even some deep dives into attachment theory and doing my own self-study around understanding men and women, feminine and masculine energy, I recognized that I was actually starting to help people around me, but I was still stuck. And that's when I decided to hire a coach for myself. And she absolutely transformed my life, not only in, you know, doing a lot of work with me to help me find my husband today, but also in showing me that this was also meant for me and really taking me under her wing and really seeing that this was something that I had a really good aptitude for before even I saw it. And then once I saw it, it was, oh, we're not turning back. So yeah, that's where we are today. And like I said, it's just been such a beautiful journey to go from, working in the corporate world and, excelling in it to recognizing my own power and creating something that was truly and is truly mine. It's actually the one things in my life starting my business was something that I made the decision of not if it was going to find me a husband or not, but simply because I was called to it and I knew it was meant for me. I actually had people tell me, like, are you sure you're not going to intimidate men with that? Because I started coaching only men, right? And I was like, my man's not going to care, and I don't care because I'm meant to do this. So yeah, and it all skyrocketed pretty quickly, and I'm just so grateful for the journey, and I'm so excited for what's next.
I love that so much. I love just part of what you were saying, how, oh, this is actually how it started in the beginning.
Hmm.
And and I know you totally agree with this concept, but it's like, oh, it's like the detours and the failed relationships and the everything around was actually happening for you to give you the lessons that you needed
Yes.
for what it is that you're doing now, which I absolutely love. So what would you say? So you and Mike, your husband,
Yeah.
who I've met him multiple times, he's amazing. So what would you say the difference is of of how you show up, because I'm sure that there are a lot of other women who are listening to this, and this could relate to romantic relationships, to even to friendships, to your business. Like you
Hmm.
get in it and you lose yourself and you
Yes.
lose, right? So fill in the blank for you as you're listening to this, because this is a very, very applicable conversation, whether you are looking for a spouse or not, or a connection or a relationship or not. Apply this to you, but I'd love to hear, what was it that you learned along the way,
Mhm.
that maybe what did that abandoning yourself look like in your behavior, in your
Yeah.
thoughts, in your actions, and
Hmm.
how has that changed for you now?
So interesting you're bringing this up. I was thinking so much about this morning because what I see so many women do, especially high achieving women, is they decide to not abandon themselves in relationships anymore. And then they have the same dynamic with their business.
Yep.
And it's just another way. And a lot of the times we can even use our business as a means to not worry about the romantic part, but we still have that insecure attachment with our business, right? So when you abandon yourself in a romantic relationship, it's ultimately because you're trying to avoid what you're subconsciously afraid of, whether it's abandonment, rejection, intimacy. And it creates this unstable foundation and environment in partnership where one day you can feel like you're on the top of the world and so in love and so excited. And the next day it's like this doom of, oh my gosh, when is the other shoe going to drop? And so much of the time, we do that in our businesses too, right? We attach our identity to the business in the same way that we can attach our identity to a man, right? Like if I have the right man, if I have the right partner, I'm okay. I'm good. And we do the same thing with our business. If my business is going well, if everything is amazing, well, I'm good. So, what happens on the days, which are inevitable in entrepreneurship, where you're not sure how things are going, right? And, that's relative for where you are in your business, right? You could be making six-figure months, but if you then aren't starting to go to multiple six-figure months, well, what's wrong? And then you're back to that unhealthy dynamic in your business. So abandoning yourself really looks like ignoring any sort of emotional response to something within yourself in order to create an external environment that you think is going to create stability for you.
Hmm.
So, in relationship, this can look like not setting boundaries, not speaking your truth because you're afraid that if you set that boundary, that this person's going to be mad at you, right? A lot of the times we feel so guilty if we set boundaries with somebody that we care about because we've been taught that it's not okay to do that and we have to put other people's needs before our own. Same with our business, right? We're in this hustle and grind culture a lot of the time, which don't get me wrong, starting a business takes discipline, it takes drive, it takes vision, it takes structure, right? We have to have some of that masculine in there. But when we start to completely put our health and well being to the side, our romantic relationships, our friendships, right? The things that actually allow us to experience life so beautifully, then we are actually self-abandoning for our business, right? And we can use our business as an excuse for that. But what's so beautiful about the entrepreneurial journey is you have the ability at times to restructure things and give yourself that safety and security, knowing that, okay, I don't have to always put my business before me and it can still flourish and it can still thrive. And that's been such a gratifying journey for me. Especially when I started my business, I was also still working in corporate and marketing. And so I was working 80 hours a week. And that's when I met my husband. So I had to have really strong boundaries around all of it. And then I also had to learn how to let my defenses down and recognize that it's okay to also rely on him, right? Until I started my business, all I wanted to do was be a wife and a mom. Like I was ready to just like that was gonna be it, right? And then I started my business. It was like I had a baby, and there was something else that I really cared about. And that actually was such a beautiful lesson for me to be able to separate the way that I showed up in my relationship because I had the balance of something else that was deeply important to me as well, and connected to me. So, to wrap it up, really, the difference in the way I showed up was in trusting and believing that my needs mattered too, that my emotions weren't too big, that I didn't need to hide them, and to also recognize and give my now husband the chance to show me that he could understand also and be able to take care of me in ways that maybe I couldn't even take care of myself and support me through all of that. Now, of course, it was much easier that he was also an entrepreneur and totally understood where I was in my journey. Um, but I specifically manifested that. I knew I wanted, a partner in crime. I knew I wanted somebody who also saw life as something to build and exciting and free. And boy, I got that. He's quite fabric.
I love it. Well, I love this concept of what you're saying of whether it is a romantic relationship or even a friendship or the relationship that you might have with your business. It's the whole like wherever you go, there you are.
Yes, there
Right?
you are.
There you are. Surprise.
Even after you get married, there you are.
You sure are. But it's even this beautiful, like how you shared, it just gives me this, oh, okay, there are times where in life where we are for sure independent. We are, an independent, quote unquote, independent woman, that kind of a thing. I can dive into aspects of my business. I'm not allocating time, energy, resources into a romantic relationship. But I love what you said to her. It was like, oh, I was actually able to put my defenses down. I was actually able to allow him to come into this space to support me.
Mhm.
And I love this because we actually throw stones, if you will, at the whole hyper independence
Mhm.
concept and the other end of that spectrum, which is codependency.
Right.
Right. I have
I
to
love that.
change who I am to make you happy. I have to change my environment to not feel anything, to like not ruffle any feathers. And so there's these two extremes of hyper independence and codependency, but the healthy version of that is what's called interdependence. So this is where, oh, I'm not needy for you. I'm not codependent for you. I'm not independent. I'm not bulldozing people on the way out, and I'm not in this survival mode where I just blow people over and I let go of my own needs and all this stuff. This interdependence actually means, oh, I actually recognize the need that my soul has
Mhm.
for healthy connection, for healthy community, for healthy relationship. I'm not needy for you, but I'm not independent. I recognize that need that I have, and it's not a need that I can fill on my own.
Hey, just a quick little invitation here for you to give one of my new favorite products a try. It's called Glossy. And if you know anything about me, that you know that I love to share things that I love. I love to talk about the things that I love that I'm using, whether it's new products, new services, fun books that I'm sharing about. So I'm always on the hunt for new products that help with high performance, that help me not only as a business owner, as a founder, as a speaker, as a podcaster, and even as a mom feel better, but it's got to be able to fit into my daily routine. And I have found one that is like my new obsession. It's called Glossy. It's a skin and a gut daily ritual supplement. It's a skin routine that you can drink. Not only does it taste amazing, like a light, refreshing lemon spa water that I could drink all day, seriously, but it's making me feel so recharged and like I'm feeding my body and skin everything it needs to keep up with me and my goals. It has a clinically studied probiotic in it that survives the trip to your gut so that you know that it's working, along with hyaluronic acid, which is incredible for glowy, hydrated look to your skin. And on top of that, it's loaded with skin-loving ingredients like zinc, magnesium, vitamin C, coconut water powder, minerals, electrolytes, and antioxidants. It's how I love to actually start my day as well as end my day, because when I wake up in the morning, I actually get the feeling that I feel less bloated, which, hello, is amazing. So for real, this is a game changer, especially if you travel, if you're busy, and if you have to have something that help you support your body while you are going after your big ideas. So if you want glowing skin and a happy gut, go grab your subscription because it's the best results take 30 to 60 days. You can go to getglossy.com. That's GETGLOCI.com and use my coupon code CharityMajors for an awesome discount. Now, understand that this product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. But again, that's all the official legal stuff, right? Go to getglossy.com and grab your skin and gut supplement because great skin starts from within. That's at getglossy, GETGLOCI.com, and use my coupon code CharityMajors. Grab your subscription today. You are going to love it. I have no doubt. Go to getglossy.com and use the coupon code CharityMajors. Now back to the show.
That's beautiful. Um, Interdependence is actually something I've also been thinking about a lot, especially being married now. And this is something that this relationship has shown me so beautifully because I was so independent. I had come like into my independence really when I met him. And then moving in together a year later and getting engaged and both, having our own schedules and working from home, we spent a lot of time together. And one of us might be having an amazing day, and the other one of us might be stressed out. And the most beautiful part of interdependence is understanding that your emotional experience day to day does not need to be one and the same,
Yeah.
and that it doesn't need to define the other person's, and how to have those healthy boundaries around, hey, I can't be here for you right now and I can't support you in this way because I do need to prioritize this, but let's find a time for us to sit down and brainstorm and come together on this. And, there's two pieces of this that can be so tricky. Being the person who is setting the boundary and saying, hey, I can't be there for you right now to somebody you love can be so difficult. And two, also, not then taking it on and getting frustrated that you feel guilty or you feel bad or you're torn between two worlds, but really understanding that you can have both. And this goes for all types of relationships, right? Like not just your romantic relationship, but even business professional relationships, of being able to say, I'm actually not available for this right now, but I do want to be there for you. And this is when I can be there for you. And does that work for you also? And then being able to shift gears to come back into your own energy and focus on the thing that you actually intended to focus on in that moment. And then another piece of this is also knowing when to be flexible in that and not be rigid around it, and recognize there is some flexibility. And when it really is the time to just go, this can wait, and this is really important to me. And understanding how to differentiate that within yourself and in your body, really just by getting in touch with the sensations and what's coming up for you and understanding your intention behind it. Am I doing this just to keep the peace and to make sure that everyone's okay so I can be okay? Empath, right? Or am I doing this because it actually is going to work the best for everyone involved, and or because I also know that this is a time for me to actually not, or to be more selfless, I would say. Um, and that's a balance that we all get to continue to learn and grow from, and that's the fun of it. And that's what's so important about picking the right partner who is willing to grow through all of the different patterns with you, because in different seasons there will be different patterns. And so having a partner who has been just as dedicated to learning and growing together has been game changing for me.
So good. I love that. So I want to dive into a little bit of the what you mentioned with secure attachment,
Yes.
because I think that this is so it's I have a psychology degree and actually
Yes.
love just human behavior and just the subconscious and all the things that go on underneath the surface, and this whole concept of secure and insecure attachment, because
Mhm.
we actually founded so much of the philosophies that we have around connection
Mm.
around secure attachment.
Oh, I love that.
And so I would love to hear just your take on what it looks like as far as romantic
Yeah.
relationships as well as friendships. Because I know for me, I had somewhat secure attachment, but it wasn't until I was actually a lot more at home in myself and my own identity
Hmm.
that I found that balance of that interdependence versus the independence versus the codependency versus
Yeah.
people pleasing or showing up in the hustle and the grind and then just grind it out for 100 hours a week type of a thing. But I'd love to hear just your thoughts on this attachment.
Yes. Well, your journey through romantic attachment sounds a lot less messy than mine.
Oh, it was messy. We could get into that. It's messy, but this
Like, I had some secure attachment. I'm like, girl, I had no secure attachment. Like that didn't even exist in my world. And I had no idea like what it could even feel like to be secure. Um, and I'm grateful that I get to experience that now. But, that is one of the reasons why this work and helping others is so important to me and so heart-led, because if you aren't familiar with the attachment styles, you have anxious attachment, avoidant, and fearful avoidant, also called anxious avoidant. And for the longest time, I was convinced I was anxiously attached because I had all of the symptoms of the anxiety when I wouldn't hear back from somebody, over investing right away, creating these stories, putting them on the pedestal, being so attracted to unavailability, really not being able to receive if somebody was wanting to choose me. And it wasn't until I met my husband that it was very apparent that, oh, I'm actually fearful avoidant. Because I had really only invested in men who didn't have the same level of emotional availability as my now husband. And it hit me like a ton of bricks to recognize my own patterns. And that's the beautiful thing about being invested in the work is you get to experience the patterns without making them mean something. And then you actually get to experience what's on the other side, where so many of us experience ourselves in what is really just a reflection of those parts that are not whole in another person, and we run. We're
Right.
like, I don't want to see this. I don't want to do this. It's got to be them, not me, because I'm not going there. Right. And that could be conscious or subconscious. There's a lot of ways our subconscious gets in the way. And so when it comes to attachment, when we are in insecure attachment, as I mentioned before, um, we are really living from a place of fear, and we're interacting with a person or our business from a place of fear. So whether that be the fear of abandonment, as I mentioned, which is anxious attachment, the fear of intimacy, which is avoidant, and the fear of rejection, which is fearful avoidant. So in relationship, if you have, we'll go to avoidant because I talked about anxious a little bit already. So if you are avoidant, you are doing everything you can in order to avoid intimacy. And that's not just like the close, fun type of intimacy, because on a subconscious level, we already know that. If it was just the fun intimacy, then we would be all for it. But we create these defenses because in reality, intimacy also includes conflict resolution, understanding how to have healthy conflict. It includes seeing sides of yourself because your partner is going to be a mirror for you. Um, and a beautiful one at that, but sometimes uncomfortable. um, and and so when we start living from and making decisions from this place of fear in order to avoid intimacy, because truly what an avoidant is afraid of is losing themselves. So we talked about this a little bit. I see it really as like the anxious attacher almost wants to lose themselves in the relationship to avoid the pain that they feel, whereas the avoidant is really running from the pain they feel in relationship through things outside of the relationship. Pia Melody, if you're familiar with Pia Melody, describes this beautifully in the way that both the anxious attacher and the avoidant are really trying to just avoid the anxiety and the angst that they feel, just in opposite ways. And
Yeah.
what happens is when we are also living from these fears or making decisions based on these subconscious fears, we attract somebody who fulfills them because our thoughts create our reality. And when we expect people to show up a certain way, consciously or subconsciously, they do. And this is what creates the anxious avoidant trap. And so, that's obvious of what that can look like in a romantic relationship, which is that push pull, right? You're madly in love, and then one person starts to pull away. So the other person starts protesting by creating different unhealthy ways of trying to recreate that connection, some of which is to pull away. Well, that's going to bring the other person back. And we have that nice cat and mouse game that happens, widely known as push pull, also known as the anxious avoidant trap. In business, you create your business as anxious or avoidant based on how you're showing up to your business. So when you show up in a fear of abandonment by your business, worried that your business is going to get taken away from you, worried that your business is going to let you down, you will grasp onto it Imagine your sales calls when you're like this, right? You're like, please hire me. Like, I need you, right? Otherwise, everything's going to fall. Or your content, right? You're not going to be willing to really say the things that you want to say because you're so afraid that it could be taken away from you. And so your business starts to become a little bit avoidant, right? You notice there's a gap between the two of you because the relationship feels strained. So it's really important for us to look at how are we using our relationships to avoid the very thing that's actually going to help us, which is to be with that fear, also known as your inner child, and to understand how that's affecting the dynamic and take ownership for our parts in it.
Yeah, I love that so much. That's so good because I feel like it's so relevant to, again, same thing, wherever we go, there we are. So it's whether it's romantic relationships or the relationship we have with our business or even friendships. So I love this concept of, okay, so if I have done the work and
Mhm,
am now more of a secure attachment, for
mhm.
you in your journey, what has that translated into when it comes to all types of connections and relationships?
Yeah,
Because I know for me, it was, I mean, I for sure have had to work out some of this stuff, even in our marriage. We've been together this year is
sure.
18 years. So we have been through
Amazing.
so much together. And there for sure were moments where, like, sure, we said I do in the beginning, but we don't know if we do anymore. And
Mm,
gosh, what does it look like to really stick with it when things are really, really hard and it feels
yeah,
really, really uncomfortable and we are in it?
yeah.
And oh, okay, now that things are really great and healed, and we're, like for me personally, with my experience in relationship, okay, now more as a secure connector.
Mm,
I recognize that the relationships that I have in every area of my life
mhm,
are so much healthier, they're so much richer, there's so much depth and vulnerability and connection
mm,
there, compared to how I used to be and how I used to show up in relationship in some of these insecure attachment styles.
mm.
And I really, really think, especially in today's world, and I think this is such a relevant conversation because in today's world with AI and is this a robot talking to me on Instagram or is this a real person? That one of the people are going to be awakened to the fact of how much we, in a good way, need each other in those genuine, rich, healthy connections, whether it's romantically, whether it's friendship, whether it's business connections. And yeah, so I would love to hear, like, as you healed yourself in your journey, becoming more of a secure connector, how has that affected the rest of the relationships and friendships around you?
So the biggest difference is there is no sense of urgency. When you are in an insecure relationship, whether it be with another human or with an entity like your business, there's a lot of urgency. Everything feels catastrophic. Everything feels like that fight or flight because you're literally going into it,
Yeah.
right? And this is how so many of us get dysregulated in romantic relationships and also in our businesses, especially. Um, and that urgency comes from believing that our safety comes from something outside of us. And when we believe that our safety comes from something outside of us, well, then we start to label things as either better than or less than, which means on a day to day basis, we are either better than or less than, which creates a lot of instability within us, right? So ultimately, we're talking about self esteem. When you have self esteem, you see everything for what it is. It's not labeled as better than or less than. There's preference, but it's not a matter of scrutiny. And by recognizing that, or by actually instilling that safety within ourselves, we no longer feel like we need that affirmation of where we stand in the ranks, right? Whether it be a friendship or a relationship, like, am I good enough for this person? Are they good enough for me? Right? Which comes from a lot of that fear. by actually moving through that, the sense of urgency goes away. And that's when we can actually make really aligned decisions and have those hard conversations because we feel safe within ourselves and we know we have our backs. One of the first things I started to do to find this safety within me, two things actually. One was every morning before I would get out of bed, before I would even open my eyes, I would just tell myself, like, you are safe. And I would just picture myself in this safe, glowing, sometimes gold, sometimes pink, sometimes white, like sparkly bubble, and just find that safety within myself. And the second thing I would do is I would look at myself in the mirror and I would tell myself, I love you. I would say, I effing love you, but I don't know if we're swearing on this podcast. But like, I love you no matter what. No matter what happens today, no matter what happens tomorrow, I am here for you. Because when we're so used to abandoning ourselves for the affirmation of someone else, we don't trust that we have our own back. And that's what creates that urgency. That's what creates that separation of better than and less than. And the same thing is true for your business, right? You could say this about yourself for your business. Like, no matter what people say about your content, no matter what someone says about X, Y, or Z, I still love you. I'm still here. I know your heart. I know your soul, and I got your back. So a secure relationship really starts with and I know that sounds corny and cheesy. I'm like, duh. It is duh, but it takes a level of dedication to asking yourself, especially when you're just getting used to it, like, who am I making this decision for and why? And is there really urgency here? Or can I actually take a moment to breathe, to come back to center, to not try to fix everything externally because I feel icky inside, and just be with the icky inside because it will pass. And then you can make a better decision in your relationships. Because it's when we come from that urgency that we grasp on, or we push someone away, or we have some reaction that hurts the other person and hurts the relationship, or we make a business decision that we recognize later, like, oh, that was really like I was searching for a life raft, right?
No, I love what you're saying here because I think that this is something really important to differentiate because in a world that is and that says like yes that our feelings matter and I have to feel it to do it, I have to feel in alignment and all of this stuff that we hear, which is good and valid and needed and necessary. Our feelings are language of the heart,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
they aren't meant to be drivers. And so I love that you said, okay, I'm okay with being with whatever feelings are coming up, but they don't get to dictate my actions
Correct.
from that place, right? Otherwise, it's like for me, it's like my feelings don't dictate my actions or my goals, my, it's or my, so like if I didn't feel like going to the gym, I would probably, if I waited to go to the gym when I felt like it, I would never go to the gym because you
Right.
don't ever
Right.
really feel
Yes.
good. Like,
Yes.
no, my goals actually determine my
Mhm.
actions. Can I be okay with not with like feeling like, oh, okay, I gotta whatever, and then I just get over it and I go anyways. But yeah, I love this concept because be okay with being in the feelings. Their
Mhm.
language of the heart, their signals of what's going on internally,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
they
Well, I
don't,
think,
go ahead.
sorry, you go ahead. I think a beautiful way to discern between the two is this feeling something I'm creating in the mind, or is it really in my body?
Yeah,
Right? So if your body is like, I am tired, I've been going to the gym so much, I've been working so hard on my business, I've been up late,
yeah,
that's a moment to maybe go, yeah, maybe I do take it easy today. Maybe I go for a little walk instead of to the gym. Or in the head, right? Of like, "Ugh, I really don't want to do this right now. And, you know, just ultimately like procrastinating or just not doing what we know is best for us simply because we have something going on in our mind that's talking ourselves out of it. I think that's a really big desertion. And, a lot of that work is so important because most of us are pretty disconnected from our feminine energy, which is the heart and the body. And especially when you have been taught to, go to the gym even when you don't feel like it, we apply that to such a big scope of things that we rationalize ourselves out of actually understanding what's happening. And you're absolutely right. And this is something that actually I had a therapist in college tell me. I was going through a lot of anxiety at the time. And she was like, talk to your anxiety. I was
Yeah.
like, I love it. Like, hi, anxiety. So happy you're here. Just so you know, I'm going to keep doing my day. So you can come along with me though, like if you want, but just know, like, it's okay if you don't come. Like, I'm good. I'm also protected. I'm safe. Like, I don't need you to like keep the mountain lion away. There is no mountain lion. So let's just go ahead and go. So, yes, I think it is such a beautiful part of our journeys to learn what that balance is for us and to learn how to tap into. Am I really being asked to be with an emotion right now? And also, emotions are supposed to pass when you really feel it, 90 seconds.
Yeah.
But what happens is we start to rationalize why we're feeling the way we're feeling. We try to solve it logically.
Yeah.
So instead of just being with the feeling, we're up in our head going, okay, I feel really stressed. Why? Okay. Well, because I forgot to take my vitamins this morning, and then, oh my gosh, I have all this laundry to do, and the kids are doing this, and is he going to be mad at me for this? And oh my gosh, I have a million things to do for the business. And they posted today. I haven't posted yet. Do I need to post now? Like, are people going to like this? People didn't like it. Okay. Like, what's next? Right. So instead of going, oh, okay, no, I'm feeling overwhelmed right now. That's all you need to feel.
Yeah.
And then it'll pass. And then you get to choose of that list of things what to actually focus on next and allow yourself to go through that. But I think we get it so confused that we think we have to choose between the two of like achieving and feeling. And in my experience, feeling has actually allowed me to achieve more because I'm
Yeah.
not avoiding anything anymore.
Yeah. No, that's so beautiful. And I love that you even created that separation. Oh, am I feeling it in my body? Oh, do I actually just need to take a walk today instead of going to the gym? Or am I creating this is what's going on in my head, and what can that signal for me? So yes, that's so good. Well, Emily, I know that people are going to want to just find you, follow you, especially the high achieving women who are like, ooh, okay, maybe this is showing up in my business. Or what I'm actually really desiring in my relationships, and how do
Yes.
I work on me so that wherever I go, it actually shows up with secure attachment with my business, with my friendships, with my my romantic relationships. So where can people find you, follow you, get into your world, get to know you?
Oh my gosh, I would love to connect with all of you. You can find me, the best place to find me is Instagram. So it's at Emily Freeman Coaching. And I work with women one-on-one, and I'd be so excited to hear from you. You can either go to the link in my bio to apply or just send me a DM. I would love to connect with you, hear a little bit about your story. And yeah, I'm excited. It was
Yeah.
great to have this conversation.
Oh, I've loved it. And I'm just really grateful that the networking event and program and people that we invested into last year brought us together. And just know I really appreciate you and your friendship and how you show up and who you be. Um, and I'm just so excited for us to be friends for the long haul. So thanks for being you.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I am just so grateful that we have got to meet. Oh my gosh, that we met. And I'm also so excited for what's to come. And it's been so fun to kind of geek out over psychology with you. And this is just gonna spur on a whole other slew of voice notes. I know it over over iMessage.
I love it. I love it. Let's do it. I can't wait. All right. Well, thanks for being here, you guys. Thanks for listening. And as always, cheers to your success. We'll see you next time.
Thank you so much for listening to the show. I hope it brought some value and some fun into your business and life. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast, and even share the episode with a fellow business bestie who you know will love it. It helps us continue to attract top-level guests and reach more and more women who are on their journey in business just like you. Remember that when money gets in the hands of good women, great things happen. Cheers to your success.